Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Glenn H.
What's up, my brother? Good morning.
Got two words for you.
Good morning.
Shut up.
Oh, all right.
No, we got a special guest in the house today. Actually, it's more than a special.
I know,
guest.
it's something different.
Something different brewing in the coffee shop.
We're trying something different, shake things up a little bit instead of just having guests, having
That's right.
content, just having chats.
That's right.
We change it up a little bit.
That's right. We were going to have, who was that, Donald Trump on this morning, but
yeah, we were.
Last minute cancellation.
Yep. Instead of having Joe Biden on.
Yeah, well, he thinks he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a special. We're going to do a special little turnaround today. So we've had.
So what does this look like?
Well, it looks like this. We've had a guest on before. Go back and listen. Great episodes. Elizabeth is joining us this morning, but in a special way. So normally Glenn and I kick off. We do some bantering back and forth, and then go into a topic and have a guest. Today, we're sitting back. We're just going to sit back. We've got Elizabeth.
I know. I kind of want to be like Danny G, just hanging out on the couch over there.
I know. He's sleeping. We'll wake him up in a bit.
That's awesome. We had a great group this morning.
At any rate, Elizabeth is going to host for us today. So
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, she's going to be hosting.
Good morning. How are you?
So this is your show today, your time at the coffee shop, and we also have a special. Well, I'm going to let you introduce your special.
Do you want us
guest.
to chime in at all, or just kind of enjoy the ride?
Yeah.
I think you can do both.
Okay.
Chime in and enjoy
All right.
the ride.
Very good.
Enjoy the ride, chiming in.
All right, and if Brian, Brian, our engineer, audiohighpodcastingstudio.com. Brian, if you hear the F word, don't beep it out. This is an authentic, real 27 minutes. All right, thank you.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Good to see you.
Morning, Elizabeth.
Yeah, morning. Bright and early.
Yeah,
Sober.Coffee.
That's the way we roll.
So excited to be here. I appreciate you asking me. And when you did, I, of course, thought of Jackie, my best friend, who I met in sobriety in the rooms of AA. I just wanted to welcome Jackie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for
Jackie,
having me
welcome.
along.
By the way, Jackie is sporting the Sober
I know, I
Life
love it.
sweatshirt, which is a proud thing to be. So that's...
I can't take credit for it. Elizabeth got it for us.
Oh,
Fantastic. I love
I
it.
love it. The Sober Life.
Yeah. We're living the sober life.
Sure are.
Yeah, we went to McHenry Soberfest in November, which is a great function. I ran into the wonderful Mikey there.
I was there.
Jackie, I, and some of our sober brothers and sisters. It was a wonderful time. And yeah, we sported the Sober Life sweatshirts and women in sobriety. And yeah, it was a great time. A couple thousand sober people.
It was great to be in an environment like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. I highly recommend it. Anybody that can go do it. But yeah, thank you for having me. I loved my experiences here on the show with you guys. What you do here is just phenomenal for our community and those that aren't. You know, we always say the 12 steps and the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous could be used, for anyone. For not just addictions, but emotional. Times and just a way of living. It only says alcohol once in the 12 steps, and if you sub that out, for really anything, these are great principles to live by. So, thank you for having me. Something that we talk about a lot in the rooms of AA is acceptance. Mm-hmm. We have a beautiful reading, and if you don't mind if I read it this morning.
It's your show, man.
Yeah.
You can read the whole big book if you want.
Okay, great. Well, this is acceptance from page 417 of the big book, and it was spoken about a lot when I first came in, and it was something that I personally took issue with because I'm an alcoholic, and I like poking holes in things, and I didn't have much acceptance of anyone, myself, let alone other people, when I came in to AA. So acceptance, from the Big Book, page 417, it says, "An acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes." Yeah, that was pretty powerful for me.
Solid, yeah.
Yeah, not only did they talk about God, which I wasn't open to in the beginning, but it talked about, some accountability, and being in charge of my life and not taking on the world's burdens. And, we all have a different concept of God. When I met Jackie, we come from different backgrounds and had reached different points in our life, but there was an instant connection, She's definitely my soul sister. I consider her my family. And working through the early days of sobriety together, I wouldn't be here without her. It's
Same.
just a
Agreed.
fact.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And, having that connection to people, having the support, that can lead us to accepting the things in our lives that we cannot change. It's just a fact. There's things I've done and said that led me here, like all of us. And when I first came into AA and was getting sober, I had a hard time accepting where I was in life. At 43 years old, I had very little direction. Outwardly, I lived in a home, married in a relationship. I'd worked my whole life, but when I came in, I realized I had a lot of work to do. And getting sober being the first part, accepting that I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and that I needed help. I needed to trust people and ask for help. And Jackie was that person, that I could count on.
Did you guys come in at the same time, pretty much?
Just
or?
a couple months apart.
Yeah.
Couple months apart. Okay.
Yeah. 2 months apart.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember her first meeting. She came into a breakfast speaker meeting at our Mokina Fellowship. And we were 7 a.m.ers every single day, 7 a.m. So, yeah, there was an instant connection there, though.
I remember she was one of the first people off of the note card with the names and the phone numbers.
Yep,
I think
yep.
she was the first one on it. And I went
Wait. So you actually used that?
I actually did.
Wow.
Yes. I
don't think anybody's ever called me from the 500 that I put my name on. I don't think anybody's ever called me.
I went to that breakfast meeting, and yes, made an instant connection with Elizabeth. I remember walking out. I brought my mom with me that morning because I didn't want to go by myself. Obviously, I was scared to death. And my mom said, you should call that woman that sat with us. Like, she seems really nice and like a genuine person. I think that you guys would have a lot in common. And here we are today. But yes, to your point about calling and using those numbers, I went to the 7 a.m. That very next Monday morning, and Elizabeth's number was at the first top of that card. I still have it, actually. It's in the back of my big book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That's great.
And you used it, you reached out to a lot of the women
I reached
on
out
that
to
card.
every woman on that card that day and just said, thank you for being there and thank you for listening. And I need help. I have no friends in sobriety. All my friends were still out there drinking and drugging. And yeah, every single person responded. And, that's who I am still in good contact with today.
That's the program working.
Yeah, so that's what I always wonder, when newcomers come in, they get that card, right? And they're like, well, what do I do with this, right? But I like how you just described that. You just said, hey, I like being able to connect. I'm like, you put in your phone number, I'm trying to get help, and everybody responded. That says a lot.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's the root of the program. It's a we program. And so many of us, at least for me, I had isolated. I'm an outgoing person in general, but through my drinking and drug use, I'd lost any self-worth that I had obtained. And, going into the rooms of AA, there's something that's special about it, that you connect with people. Connecting with people in sorrow and sadness is different than connecting with people in joy and happiness and good times. When you're at your lowest and people are willing to lift you up from the bottom, because that's where most of us hit. I had many bottoms before I came in to AA. They talk about DUI, job loss, things like that. But yeah, it was important. I think that connection that's there.
Yeah, I think it is so strong at its very root is that we get each other. I don't know Jackie. I didn't grow up with her. I didn't grow up with you, right? But I know because I know somewhere you felt the same level of pain that I did to bring you into the rooms. So right there, I just get you, and I feel that you get me because you don't know my whole story, but we're here. We're here working on our sobriety because it's the most important thing in our lives, and that's the core. That's the thread that I think bonds us together.
Agreed. I think on going with the theme of acceptance, when I came in, just so beaten and broken, zero self-worth, I had zero self-love for myself. I'd gone through a horrific 6 weeks up, before that. Really, just all of my decisions kind of, culminated. I had lost my job, unfortunately had to break up with who I thought was the love of my life at the time, decided I was going to take on being a single mom, by myself, and came in and thought, these people are never going to understand who I am, what I've gone through, let alone I was so afraid of being judged. And they're like, they're going to think I'm the worst person on the face of the planet. And everyone accepted me right where I was. Like to your point, you don't know me, I don't know you, but it didn't matter because we all had that same thing in common and accepted me of where I was, and also accepted the fact that I was asking for help and wanted people to be a part of my journey and to help me along the way. And I had, handout after handout after handout, of people that wanted to continue with me along to where I am today.
Yeah, I just made a note. I think the most real connections are made when we're at our bottoms.
Agreed.
Nobody wants anything from you, right? And I'm trying to think, hey, when I was at the top, I had many connections, but I mean, everybody had an agenda. I had an agenda. They had an agenda. And, when you're at your bottom, I mean, I have people today that I'm so close with 10 years later, and they connected with me and had a relationship with me, and I had zero value.
Cachet to give back to them.
Zero. Yeah. And it wasn't like I was going to hit the lottery tomorrow. I had no hope for tomorrow.
Right.
And yet people just sat next to me and just was, it was just unbelievable. I think that's a great point.
How did you feel about that when you came into the rooms and you'd had what you thought, I consider transient friends, friends in our lives through work and, parties and life, marriage, things like that were connected to through a lot of drugs and alcohol. How did you feel when those friends started fading away?
You mean my fake friends?
Yes.
I applauded it because I really recognized at the time, like almost at the end, there was some, I went to this really high level bar where I finally saw the bar with the lights turned on. And I'm like, holy crap, this place is the filthiest place. It was the dregs. And bottom feeders were in there. And I remember I had some buddies, right? The minute I stopped buying booze, the buddies were gone. And it was so evident to me that I was being used. But you know what? Where I was, I'm like, okay, that's where my life is. So I almost applauded shedding that, right? And I know a lot of people save relationships and they save marriages and they save kids. I had zero when I started 10 years ago. I literally stood up in front of my recovery group, and the dude said, he goes, hey, write everybody's big whiteboard, write everybody's name, draw a big circle, write everybody's name in the circle who are on your team.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I literally started crying. I had no name. So finally, I better put my name in there. So I put my name in there. I mean, that's where I was. I had zero. And looking back, it was a very lonely, empty time for me. But it was a great place. I didn't have to rebuild a lot of relationships. I didn't have, a lot of resentments against me because I had nobody around me. So in one way, it was cool. Another way, it was probably the loneliest time of my life. But I knew I was shedding fake, and then I saw people who would connect that were real. And I'm like, okay, I think I want to do something here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of those people don't need to be in our lives, but there are sometimes family members. I know sometimes we're tied to some people that maybe we used with or, did things with, and we still have to be around them. I know you, Jackie,
Yep.
sometimes have people in your life that, from your past life, and they're not sober. How do you deal with that?
I struggle with that still to this day. Again, acceptance. I talk a lot about in therapy, like grieve the relationship with love still, whether it be family members or friends. I've walked away from long-term friendships, 15, 20 years because I tried to still, save it at first and then realized this doesn't suit my values and my beliefs anymore. And it became more work than what it was worth. And really rubbed up against my sobriety and where I was trying to take my life. Other relationships, you're tied, they're family members or whatnot, or maybe a little bit more challenging to walk away. I've really learned how to adapt in those relationships and take the good of what serves me and kind of leave the rest. Because if you try to keep everything in that same mold and that same dynamic that it was, prior to you getting sober, it's very, very hard. It's not easy. It is still something I struggle with today.
I think that's a great point. Redefining the relationships and accepting that they're not what they used to be. I always had this theory in my head when my brother passed away. You can use someone's death, but you have to mourn relationships when they're alive as well.
Good point.
For what they are not what you thought they were going to be, and what it turns out that they just will never be. And I had it as BJD and AJD before Jack, who's my brother, before Jack died and after Jack died, because I kept yearning to go back to that person I was before. I kept expecting with time that I would go back and be the person and how I felt and have that same, not just personality, but completeness. And I had to realize that I have to mourn a relationship, a death, whether it's someone's passing or just a relationship that doesn't suit me anymore, and start anew. I had to embrace the new life, because this is a gift we've been given. Mm-hmm. I know you all have had to deal with challenges in your life too, and to accept it, the people in our lives that we can't change their decisions, for you all, is that hard to stand back and let people kind of take their own paths? I mean, because we have control issues. I think a lot of people in general.
Yeah. I think accepting other people. First of all, I had to learn to accept myself, right? So going back to the first step, I had to accept the fact I was an alcoholic. I couldn't drink like normal people, right? That part I kind of got my arms around pretty quickly. But then as the program, as my brain became clearer and my eyes began to see, I realized that other people, I had drank so much trying to change my scenarios and change other people and change the situation I was in, when really it just took me accepting where they were for where they were. Once that epiphany hit, and once, we read page 417, I was in rehab when we read that, and I actually had the book, my big book from rehab, and somebody had circled the whole thing and put a little star. Her name was Kim. I've never talked to her since. But that's still in my big book, and it's amazing to me because once you accept your own self, that was my first hurdle, then accepting other people became a lot easier.
So then going back to what you're talking about, navigating relationships, at what level Have you used the 8th and 9th step in those relationships? And has that helped? What impact has the 8th and 9th step had on those relationships?
Well, for me personally, when I wrote out my 8th step, I had a list of people, and of course I went over it with my sponsor after I was what I thought was done. Thought I have these people on the list, and what I realized was that was just the jumping off point. That I had other people in my lives that I needed to make an amends to in step 9 for not being present in their lives. They were still in my lives. I hadn't flirted with my friend's husband or stolen from her or, made issues in front of her children. But she wasn't on my list because, we were still friends, and I wasn't present for her. So in 9, after I started making some amends to the people in my lives, which some went very well, some didn't go over the way I wanted them to, and I had to accept that. And then I came to believe that I owed a couple of my friends amends for not being present in their lives, for not being me, just Elizabeth. And because I had not given them the authentic me. That was something that I robbed them of for years and years and years. And, I started with, you don't have to say it's okay. You don't have to tell me, it's not my fault or that you forgive me. I just want you to hear me out for a few minutes, and then we can talk after. And I did that with 2 friends that were not on my list, and they were very emotional. And they had been waiting for me to
Acknowledge.
Yeah, and also, but to be me, to be the person they knew I was. Acknowledge the fact, absolutely. My dear friend since I was 4 years old, but also to shed this persona that I had become, this nervous wreck of a person that wasn't present, but also they could see in me that I didn't have any self-worth, that I didn't have any self-love, that I was in constant pain, and I was drowning it in drugs and alcohol, and drowning right in front of them. So how about you, Jackie? I mean, for you, 8 and 9?
I think, for me, 8 and 9, I struggled with. I think everybody does to a certain extent, right? So I'm not unique in that. Given my situation with my life when it comes to certain areas of it, there are some people on my list that I can't make amends to for a variety of reasons. I'm trying to be delicate here. I've found other ways, right? Sat down and wrote a letter with my sponsor. I've sat down and prayed for those people, whether, they're living or dead. It's just better that I don't have that opportunity to sit down and have a conversation, as Elizabeth just described with her friend. Other people, I've taken the route of living amends. That's something I learned a lot about in rehab and with my therapist currently. And, sometimes your actions do truly speak louder than words. For example, with my immediate family, they've heard sorry one too many times.
Absolutely. They don't want to hear words.
Yeah, they don't want to hear it. They've heard it all. I was the master of manipulation and spinning a story and playing my part as the victim. So to be honest, I didn't even attempt to sit down and have those conversations. I, took it upon myself to say, hey, if I'm going to really show them that I'm serious this time, I'm going to show up as the person that they always knew that I could be, and show up for my son as well every single day. They see me being a mom and living my authentic life. And I think for me, it's kind of unsaid in my family, but I think that's the biggest I'm sorry I could ever possibly give them, is what
you're carrying forward.
Correct. Yeah.
First of all, I thought I was the master of manipulation, but if you'd like the title, then you go ahead and take it.
We could share it.
Yeah, you could be the female.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
No stress.
You know, the other thing that really struck me is that I do believe I put a lot of weight in living amends and just, look, I'm living a different way. Glenn, I love it is Glenn is black and white, and he black and whites me a lot. He says, sometimes, and I remember being in a meeting, this is my point, I remember being in a meeting and somebody's saying that, he had been sober, and he had been sober for a couple of years, and he was talking to his wife, and she said, yeah, but you've never said you're sorry. And he said, but look at me. I'm 2 years sober. I'm doing it. But you never said the words. And that struck with me. I went home and said the words to my wife, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Speaking of which, I got to jump in.
I know, you got to jump in.
I have to jump in. Did you use the poinsettia or did it die?
The poinsettia died, but I stopped at the door and I just said, hey, I don't know exactly what transpired or whatever. It was very awkward. So we've got a neighbor, and the neighbor just hasn't been talking to me. And for years. And I don't know what I did.
And we don't know why.
I have
No idea.
But I just said, we're neighbors. And I just want to let you know that I'm here for you, for anything you need. And I don't know what went south, but whatever it is, I feel I need to apologize to you for whatever I did. And I apologize that I don't even know what it is. But he goes, no, I just, we're fine. It was very awkward. But it's checked off my list.
Sometimes
But you did your part.
I did my part.
Sometimes that awkwardness is a seed that is planted to grow something else.
That could very well be. Hey, I didn't ask.
Maybe he won't give you the finger anymore.
He never did.
Stop
He just didn't
he'll
even
stop stealing your
acknowledge me.
mail.
He didn't even acknowledge me, which hurt even worse.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, but sometimes, I think we need that kick in the pants, that not everybody's going to support us. There are things that I've done and said, and, maybe people don't want to hear it,
Agreed.
Jackie's point as well. I think that pen to paper, I know there's I'm sitting amongst people that write, and I think that is a huge proponent of freedom, is putting words onto paper and, getting our thoughts out there. I wrote a letter to my sister who said she didn't need an amends. She grew up in the same household, and she knows about the program. And she had done Al-Anon. And, I was kind of devastated, and I spoke to my sponsor, and like I had done, as Jackie had a few times with people, I couldn't make an amends, so I'd written a letter. And sometime later, after I wrote this letter, I was able to make an amends to my sister. And I recently, a couple months ago, reread that letter. And boy, I was glad that I was able to do it with her later, because there was a lot of poor me and I'm sorry's in that letter. And when we were face to face and together in a authentic moment, it was different. And, I know she would have accepted the words if they were said the way I had originally written them. But I believe, again, like it says in acceptance, nothing happens in God's world by mistake. She wasn't ready. It wasn't on my time. And the way it worked out, it worked out for the best.
There's so much power in the ninth step.
Yes.
I mean, I just for my own, but I love hearing other people's stories and however it's handled. I mean, I had somebody on my 8-step list. It was my first ex-wife. God, I have to number them.
Well, when you got 9 of
That
them.
sucks. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Man,
I understand, yeah.
That totally sucks. But I got married. I graduated on Monday, got married on Saturday, and that marriage lasted 20 minutes. And just how this stuff works, I was on Facebook, and this blog came up, and living chronically blessed, right? I'm kind of spiritual. I'm like, I'll click on that. Well, it was her daughter.
Oh, wow.
And my
Maybe your daughter,
No.
Okay.
And it was my good clarification. No. And it was, listen to Brian laugh. Brian never knows what's going to come out. But it was, so she wrote about her mom's path for the last 20 years, crushed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
I mean, in hospitals like 90% of the time for the last 20 years. And I've never had the chance, right? But I'm at peace with that, she's on my list, but working with my sponsor, you know, I get wisdom and direction from my sponsor. My sponsor's like, she's got a new life. You got a new life. The only reason why you would connect with her, it would be self-serving for you.
Did you reach out to her?
No, she's dead.
Oh.
Just passed away.
It's a pretty lame excuse. I mean, there's cemeteries.
Well, absolutely. You know,
I'm
but
kidding.
I
I'm
didn't
just
want
kidding.
to show up at a memorial service because
Right.
that's all about
Sure.
me.
Oh, right.
Of course, of
Right.
course.
Right. So it's just
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
I love how this works, but I'm at peace
Yes.
because I believe in the program and I see so much proof of how I work the program. I'm like, okay, that was how that was supposed to work. Oh, when you asked that, you didn't know she passed away.
No.
Yeah, she just passed away.
But to your point, I agree with you. I think when I said, you know, there are some people that are on my list that I can't reach out to, whether they're living or dead, I'm okay with that. And I know the acceptance. Some people struggle with that. They want that tangible, okay, let's check the box, close the chapter, move on.
Or is
I've
that a
said
me?
my piece.
This is all about me.
Right.
Agreed.
Right.
But I mean,
Instead of the
I
program.
agree with you with that. Like, and that's why I asked, did you reach out? I didn't know she passed.
Yeah.
But I think some people struggle with that having that finality, that finite moment of being able to kind of wash your hands of it and walk away.
Yeah.
It's different for everybody, right?
Right. Yep.
I agree. It's to the point of living life on life's terms. You know, we can't have it the way we always want it.
Acceptance.
And, yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, we have to deal with the cards we're dealt, and things that aren't in our control. We have to, you know, make the best of them. Like you said, you were at peace. You know, this is something back to the point that you made about a living amends. You know, the life that you're living now, the wife you have now, the way you treat people now. I think that is what's most important. We can't go back and change things. All right. Well, this was just wonderful. Thank you so
lovely.
much
Wait,
for having
can we
me.
do it again?
Yes, I would love to do it again.
What are you doing next week?
I think I would have time to come back here next week.
Let's do it. Let's do
Pencil
this
you
dance.
in.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds great, man. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.